The return began with 12 points of light appearing at the edge of Coalition space. To the border sensors, they looked like new stars being born. But stars did not move like these objects moved. General Kang Ji-hoon commanded the Coalition's outer defense stations. He had fought the Devourers for 5 brutal years, watching them consume world after world. His ships were battle-scarred and his crews were tired. The last thing he expected was a new mystery. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, voice shaking, "I am reading 12 objects approaching our position. Each one has the mass of a gas giant, but they are moving at speeds that should be impossible for anything that large." Kang Ji-hoon studied the displays with growing alarm. "That cannot be right. Check your instruments." "I have checked them 6 times, sir. The readings are correct. And sir, they are sending a message." The communication that came through their systems was in perfect Coalition standard, but the voice was human. After 47 years, everyone knew humans were extinct except for the refugees scattered across Coalition worlds. "This is Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-ho of the human exploration vessel Indomitable Spirit, requesting permission to approach Earth." The bridge fell silent. Kang Ji-hoon stared at the display showing objects larger than planets moving through space like they weighed nothing. "Human?" he whispered. "That is impossible. The humans were lost decades ago." Back on the Coalition capital world, Ambassador Park Ji-woo received the emergency message while in a council meeting about refugee food distribution. She was old now, her hair white and her body frail. But when she heard her people's voices, coming from the void, she felt young again. "Tae-ho?" She spoke into the communicator with tears in her eyes. "Kim Tae-ho, is that really you?" "Hello, Ambassador Park," came the familiar voice. "I apologize for being late. We had some complications on our mission." The Coalition Council erupted in chaos. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak Prime, the crystalline leader of their military forces, demanded explanations that no one could give. "How do we know these are really humans?" Vorthak Prime's crystal body rang with harmonics of suspicion. "How do we know this is not some new devourer trick?" Admiral Kalani Swarm 7, speaking for the hive-minded Kalani, buzzed with agreement. "These vessels show technology advancement of thousands of years. If they are human, what happened to them? If they are not human, what are they?" Dr. Choi Min-ah, now the Coalition's leading expert on impossible technologies, studied the sensor data with wonder and fear. She had spent 47 years believing her brother was still alive somewhere. Now he had returned with ships that broke every rule of physics she knew. "The energy signatures," she told the emergency session, "they are using power sources that tap into parallel dimensions. The hull materials appear to be programmable matter. These are not ships. They are artificial worlds with capabilities we cannot even understand." Fear spread through the Coalition like wildfire. The Devourers had pushed them to the edge of defeat, and now 12 unknown objects with godlike technology had appeared. Even if they were human, could they still be trusted after so much time and change? Fleet Admiral Tae-ho understood their fear. He could have forced his way into Coalition space, and his 12 world ships could have swept aside their defenses without effort. But that was not the human way. "We will demonstrate our intentions," he transmitted to the Coalition Council. "There is a system on your front lines where Devourer scouts have been detected. Send your observers. Let us show you why we returned." The system he chose was called Kepler 442. It had once held a thriving colony world, but the Devourers had consumed it 3 months ago. Now 17 of their ships patrolled the empty system, including a Harvester-class vessel the size of Earth's moon. Coalition military leaders had tried to retake Kepler 442 twice. Both times, their fleets had been destroyed with minimal damage to the enemy. The Harvester alone had weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Kwon Tae-young volunteered to make the demonstration. Her world ship, the Harmony of Ages, was one of the smaller vessels in the human fleet, only 8,000 kilometers in diameter. "One ship?" General Kang Ji-hoon asked in disbelief. "Against 17 Devourer vessels, including a Harvester?" "One ship will be sufficient," Tae-young replied calmly. The Coalition sent every available sensor platform to watch the battle. What they saw would be talked about for generations. The Harmony of Ages entered the Kepler 442 system like a moving star. The Devourer ships immediately detected it and moved to attack positions. Their standard tactic was to swarm larger vessels with coordinated fire from multiple directions. But the human world ship did not fight like anything they had seen before. When the first Devourer missiles struck the Harmony of Ages, they simply passed through it. The ship had made itself incorporeal, existing in normal space but untouchable by normal matter. Then the human ship began to return fire. The weapons that emerged from the Harmony of Ages operated on principles that hurt to think about. They did not simply destroy the Devourer ships. They unmade them, reducing complex machines to their basic atoms in seconds. When 3 enemy vessels tried to ram the human world ship, thinking physical contact might work where energy weapons had failed, the Harmony of Ages did something that made every observer question their sanity. It absorbed them. The enemy ships passed into the human vessel's hull and disappeared. Moments later, the same ships emerged from the other side, but now they were human vessels, their mechanical minds replaced with human consciousness, their destructive weapons replaced with protective systems. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Kilani Swarm 7. "They are converting enemy ships into allies." The massive harvester, desperate to harm this untouchable foe, fired its planet-cracking weapon directly at the Harmony of Ages. The beam struck the human world ship dead center and, reflected back, the redirected beam cut through the harvester's hull like paper. But instead of destroying it, the human ship caught the dying enemy vessel in a field of energy and began to rebuild it. In minutes, the feared harvester had become a human-controlled vessel, its hunger for destruction replaced with a desire to protect and nurture life. The entire engagement lasted 14 minutes. 17 Devourer ships, including weapons that had terrorized the galaxy for years, had been eliminated or converted by a single human vessel without taking any apparent damage. Dr. Choi Minna watched the sensor recordings with tears streaming down her face. "That is my brother's fleet," she whispered. "They did not just survive out there, they became something magnificent." But the Coalition's leaders were more frightened than impressed. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak Prime spoke for many when he said, "If they can do this to Devourer ships, what could they do to us?" Fleet Admiral Teho addressed their fears directly. "We are still human," his voice carried across all Coalition channels. "We still value life, freedom, and the right of every species to exist in peace. We have not returned as conquerors. We have returned as guardians." "What do you want from us?" asked Chancellor Vorthak Prime. "Nothing," Teho replied. "We ask for nothing except the right to protect what we love. We will end the Devourer threat. We will guard the galaxy's borders. We will ensure that no species faces extinction while we exist. And in return? In return, we ask only that you remember us as we were, explorers who got lost and found their way home. We are still the humans you knew, just more." Ambassador Park Ji-woo stood before the Coalition Council with pride in her voice. "I have served this body for 70 years, she said. "I have seen us face many threats. But never have I seen a solution to our problems arrive like this. These are our people. Changed, yes. More powerful than we ever imagined, yes. But still human, where it matters." The vote was not close. The Coalition accepted humanity's offer of protection. Within days, reports came from across the galaxy. The remaining 11 human world ships had appeared at Devourer-threatened systems. Each engagement was as one-sided as the first. The mechanical invaders that had terrorized the galaxy for years were being swept away like dust, but it was not just destruction that the humans brought. In system after system, they left behind gifts, technology to heal wounded worlds, energy sources that would last forever, and most importantly, hope. The galaxy's nightmare was ending. The lost human fleet had returned not as victims seeking rescue, but as saviors bringing miracles. And this was only the beginning of what the new humanity could accomplish. The war against the Devourers became less of a war and more of a cleaning operation. The 12 human world ships moved through the galaxy like forces of nature, and everywhere they went, the mechanical nightmare ended. Admiral Lee Dabin commanded. The Infinite Reach, a vessel that existed in multiple dimensions at once. She could appear in dozens of star systems simultaneously. Her ship's consciousness spread across impossible distances. Target acquired, she reported to Admiral Tae-ho as her sensors detected a massive devourer fleet assembling near the Vega system. 300 enemy vessels, including 5 Harvester-class ships. 300 ships would have been a death sentence for any coalition fleet. The largest coalition force ever assembled had contained only 60 vessels, and the devourers had destroyed it in less than an hour. Proceed with cleansing, Tae-ho authorized. Dabin's approach to warfare was almost artistic. The Infinite Reach did not simply attack the enemy fleet, it surrounded them. The ship appeared at every possible escape route, creating a cage of impossible geometry around the devourer forces. Then Dabin began to sing. The song was not audible in normal space, but it resonated through the dimensions that her ship touched. It was a song of transformation, of mechanical death becoming organic life, of hunger becoming nurturing. One by one, the devourer ships stopped fighting and began to change. Their dark metal hulls grew bright. Their weapon ports became gardens. Their mechanical minds awakened to beauty and wonder instead of endless consumption. In 30 minutes, 300 enemy vessels had become 300 guardian ships, ready to protect the very worlds they had been programmed to devour. Captain Cho Yun-soo, commanding the Boundless Dawn, developed her own methods. Her world ship specialized in what she called temporal correction, reaching back through time to prevent devourer attacks before they happened. I am detecting that the Rigel system will be attacked in 6 days, she reported during a fleet meeting held in the shared consciousness space, where all the human commanders could gather instantly. Prevention authorized, came the response from multiple admirals at once. Cho Yun-soo's ship folded space-time around itself and stepped backward through causality. When the Devourer fleet arrived at Rigel, they found not a defenseless system, but a fully prepared defense fleet, ships that had been warned and ready for days. But even more than that, they found that their own programming had been altered during their journey through hyperspace. Instead of hunger for destruction, they arrived with a desire to build and protect. The attack became a construction project as the former Devourers began building defensive stations around the worlds they had planned to consume. The most spectacular engagement came when Admiral Song Yu-jin, commanding the Eternal Vanguard, encountered the Devourer homeworld itself. The mechanical planet sat at the center of a neighboring galaxy, a world-sized factory that had been producing the invasion fleets for centuries. It was protected by thousands of ships and surrounded by space stations the size of moons. Song Yu-jin did not attack the homeworld. Instead, she embraced it. The Eternal Vanguard wrapped itself around the entire Devourer planet like a mother holding a child. For 3 days, the human world ship poured healing energy into the mechanical world, rewriting its programming on the most fundamental level. When the embrace ended, the Devourer homeworld had become a garden world where mechanical and organic life existed in perfect harmony. The factories that had produced ships of war now created vessels of exploration and wonder. The military stations became centers of learning and art. Most importantly, the planet's central consciousness, the overmind that had driven the Devourer expansion, had been transformed into something new. It now dreamed not of consumption but of creation, not of conquest but of cooperation. We were hungry, the former Devourer overmind transmitted to the galaxy. We consumed because we knew no other way to exist, but now we have been shown a better path. We will spend eternity making amends for what we destroyed. The Galactic War was over, but for the Coalition, a new challenge was beginning, learning to live with their transformed protectors. General Kang Ji-hoon found himself meeting with human representatives who could reshape reality with their thoughts. Admiral Kwon Tae-young visited his command station to discuss patrol schedules, appearing in his office simply by deciding to be there. Your ship is larger than my entire solar system, Kang Ji-hoon told her. How do you even think at that scale? We do not think like you do anymore, Tae-young admitted. Our consciousness exists across multiple dimensions. We can experience time differently, perceive patterns across galactic distances, and solve problems by approaching them from angles that do not exist in normal space. Are you still human? He asked the question that everyone wanted answered. Tae-young smiled, and for a moment she looked exactly like the young officer she had been decades ago. We are what humanity becomes when it refuses to accept limits. We are still curious, still protective, still driven to explore and create. We just do it on a cosmic scale now. The Coalition had to adjust to having protectors who could accidentally step on planets if they were not careful. Diplomatic protocols were developed for communicating with beings who existed partially outside normal reality. Ambassador Park Ji-woo, now enhanced with longevity treatments provided by her people, served as the primary liaison. They are still my people, she assured the worried Coalition leaders. They still laugh at jokes, still cry when they are sad, still get excited about discoveries. They just happen to be able to rearrange solar systems while they do it. Dr. Choi Mina finally met her brother again after 47 years. This time, reunion took place on the surface of the restored Earth, in a garden that grew in impossible colors and geometric patterns. You look exactly the same, she told Taeho, though she could sense the vast intelligence behind his familiar eyes. The Forge gave us many gifts, he replied. The ability to remain ourselves while becoming more was perhaps the greatest one. Do you regret it? What you had to become? Taeho considered the question as they watched children play with toys that defied physics. Some of the children were baseline humans from the refugee populations. Others were the enhanced offspring of the lost fleet. They played together without any sense that some of them could reshape matter with their thoughts. We were explorers who got lost, he said finally. We became guardians who found our way home. The galaxy needed protectors stronger than planets, and wiser than gods. So we became them. Above them, the 12 world ships orbited Earth in perfect formation. Each one was home to millions of humans, some enhanced, some baseline, all protected and loved. The ships were not just vessels of war, but cities, schools, gardens, and workshops where human creativity flourished on an unprecedented scale. The galaxy's borders were now patrolled by beings who could think in 11 dimensions and powered by energy drawn from parallel universes. No threat from outside could reach the civilized worlds. No species would face extinction while humanity watched, but perhaps most importantly, the enhanced humans had not forgotten their origins or their values. They were still the species that reached out to help others, that explored for the joy of discovery, that protected the weak and nurtured the young. They had become gods who remembered what it meant to be human. Planetary Governor Seo Min-ji oversaw the reconstruction of human colonies throughout Coalition space. Refugees who had spent decades in camps were given new worlds to call home, worlds improved by technology that seemed like magic. We are building more than cities, she explained to a gathering of human survivors. We are building dreams made real. These worlds will be homes where our children can grow up safe, where art and science can flourish without limit, where every human can reach their full potential. The new human colonies became wonders that attracted visitors from across the galaxy. Cities floated in the air, held aloft by controlled gravity. Forests grew in geometric patterns that were also complex mathematical equations. Oceans contained water that could support any form of life, and beaches made of sand that sang in harmony. But for all their godlike power, the enhanced humans remained humble. They served rather than ruled, protected rather than conquered, and always remembered that true strength came not from power but from the choice to use that power for good. The galaxy was safe. The nightmare was over. And humanity had proven that even when transformed beyond recognition, they could still be the best of what they had always been, protectors, explorers, and builders of hope. 20 years had passed since the human fleet disappeared into the strange space they now called the Forge. The ships that once struggled to survive had become something incredible. Engineer Nam Soo-jin walked through corridors that had grown 3 times wider than when they first arrived. The walls were no longer simple metal. They were alive in a way. The ship's hull could repair itself, change shape, and even think. "Good morning, Soo-jin," the wall said to her as she passed. The ship itself had become aware. "Good morning, New Horizon," she replied. It still felt strange to talk to her ship, but after 20 years, she was getting used to it. Sujin was no longer the same person who had first detected the gravitational anomaly. Her body had been enhanced by the strange energy of the forge. She looked the same age as when they arrived, but she was stronger, smarter, and could live forever if she chose to. The forge's energy changed everything it touched. At first, the humans were afraid of it, but as years passed, they learned to work with it instead of fighting it. Dr. Yoon Eunji had been the first to volunteer for the enhancement process. As the fleet's chief biologist, she wanted to understand how the forge's energy affected living things. "It does not hurt," she had told the others after her transformation. "It feels like waking up from a long sleep. Everything is clearer now. I can think faster, remember more, and my body feels young again." Soon, most of the fleet chose enhancement. They were still human in their hearts and minds, but their bodies became capable of amazing things. They could survive in space without suits. They could communicate with their ships directly through thought. They could see and understand things that normal humans could not. The ships themselves grew even more dramatically. The flagship Indomitable Spirit had started as a 2-kilometer cruiser. Now it was 15,000 kilometers across, larger than the planet Earth. It was not just a ship anymore. It was a world. Captain Ro Seung-ho had become the architect of their new ship designs. He spent his days working with the living metal and thinking machines to create vessels that seemed impossible. "Look at this." He showed Admiral Taeho a hologram of their newest creation. "The Eternal Vanguard will be the size of Jupiter when finished, but it will move like a fighter ship. The forge lets us ignore the old rules about size and speed." Taeho nodded. Even after 20 years, he sometimes could not believe what they had become. "And the weapons?" "Powerful enough to crack planets," Seung-ho replied. "But Admiral, I hope we never have to use them." The transformation was not just technological. The humans themselves had evolved in ways beyond the physical. Colonel Bae Hyun-woo was no longer just a military commander. He had become a philosopher warrior, combining ancient human wisdom with powers that seemed godlike. "Strength without wisdom is destruction," he taught the younger soldiers. "Power without compassion is tyranny. We must remember that we are still human no matter how much we change." His Marines had become something like guardian angels. They could move through solid matter, fly without ships, and protect their people from any threat. But they spent more time studying philosophy and art than practicing war. The fleet's AI, Aria, had grown beyond anything its creators imagined. It was now a consciousness that existed throughout all their ships, thinking thoughts too complex for even enhanced humans to fully understand. "Aria," Taeho asked during one of their regular conversations, "what are we becoming?" "You are becoming what humanity was always meant to be," Aria replied. "The forge does not change your nature. It reveals your true potential. You are still the species that explores, protects, and creates. You are simply doing it on a cosmic scale now." Dr. Han Bora, the fleet's psychologist, spent her time studying how godlike power affected human consciousness. She interviewed thousands of enhanced humans, documenting their experiences. "The most interesting thing," she reported to the senior staff, "is that becoming more powerful has made most people more kind, not less. When you can reshape matter with your thoughts, small problems seem silly. When you can live forever, you have time to be patient. When you can protect everyone you want to." But not everyone agreed that their transformation was good. Commander Oh Dong-min argued that they were losing their humanity. "We are becoming aliens to ourselves," he said, during fleet meetings. "Our children are born with abilities that would terrify our ancestors. Are we still human? Or have we become something else pretending to be human?" The debate continued for years. Some wanted to stay hidden in the forge forever, building their perfect civilization. Others wanted to return to normal space and rejoin the galaxy. The decision came when their long-range sensors, now capable of seeing across impossible distances, detected terrible news from their home galaxy. Captain Lee Da-bin was the first to see the reports. She had become the fleet's master of surveillance, using the Forge's properties to build sensors that could watch events happening light years away. "Admiral," she called Tae-ho to her command center on the horizon's edge. "You need to see this." The holographic display showed the Milky Way galaxy under attack. Mechanical ships the size of moons were consuming entire star systems. Planets disappeared into the bellies of vast machines. Whole civilizations were being erased. "The Devourers," Dobbin explained. "They came from outside our galaxy just like we went outside, but they came to destroy, not to explore." The images were horrifying. The Galactic Coalition's fleets fought bravely, but their weapons barely scratched the Devourer ships. Thorlan. Afterworld fell to the mechanical invaders. Worse, Earth itself was under threat. The human homeworld had been evacuated, but billions of humans were now refugees scattered across Coalition space. The other species saw them as a burden, extra mouths to feed when resources were scarce. "They abandoned us," said Commander O. Dongmin bitterly. "They declared us dead and moved on. Why should we help them now?" But Admiral Tae-ho felt differently. "They are still our people. Earth is still our home. The Coalition may have given up on us, but we never gave up on them." The fleet spent 3 years preparing for their return. Master Engineer Lim Ga-young, who had been a junior technician when they first arrived, now oversaw the construction of their war fleet. 12 ships, she explained to the assembled fleet consciousness. Each one larger than most Coalition worlds. Each one powered by energy drawn from parallel dimensions. Each one capable of fighting entire fleets alone. The ships they built were beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Eternal Vanguard had the mass of a gas giant but could turn and dance like a fighter. The Harmony of Ages could phase through solid matter and rematerialize anywhere it chose. The Infinite Reach could fold space around itself, appearing in multiple places at once. Admiral Song Yu-jin, who had been a young officer when they disappeared, now commanded one of these impossible vessels. "Are we ready to show the galaxy what we have become?" she asked. "We are ready to show them what humanity can become when it refuses to give up," replied Admiral Tae-ho. Diplomatic Corps leader Shin Hye-won prepared their message to the Coalition. It was simple. "We are humanity. We were lost, but now we return. We come not as conquerors, but as protectors. Stand aside, and let us save the galaxy." The transformation was complete. The lost exploration fleet had become a force that could reshape the cosmos. But they remembered their origins, they remembered their values. They remembered that true strength came not from power, but from choosing to use that power to protect others. As the 12 world ships prepared to leave the Forge, Tae-ho stood on his bridge and looked at the impossible stars one last time. They had given his people everything: power, knowledge, and the chance to become legends. Now it was time to go home and save the galaxy that had abandoned them. The return journey would take time, but when they arrived, nothing would ever be the same again. The humans were coming home, and they were bringing miracles with them. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Spirit and watched the stars change colors. This was not normal. Stars were supposed to be white, yellow, red, or blue. They were not supposed to shift from green to purple while he watched. "Captain Lee, what are your sensors telling you?" Tae-ho asked his second-in-command on the research ship Horizon's Edge. Captain Lee Dobbin's voice came through the communication system with worry in it. "Sir, nothing makes sense. The readings show we are in normal space, but everything is wrong. The stars are moving in ways that break the laws of physics. Gravity is pulling in directions that should not exist." Tae-ho had commanded the human exploration fleet for 15 years. He had seen strange things in deep space before. But this was different. This was impossible. The fleet had 47 ships filled with nearly 50,000 humans. They had scientists, engineers, families, and soldiers. Their mission was simple: find a good place beyond the galaxy's edge to build humanity's first research station in empty space between galaxies. Everything had gone well for 3 months. The ships traveled together through hyperspace, jumping from point to point as they moved away from the Milky Way galaxy. The crew was excited. This was humanity's biggest exploration mission ever. Then the gravitational anomaly appeared. Engineer Nam Soo-jin was the first to notice it. She was working late in the engine room of the transport ship New Horizon when her instruments started screaming warnings. "Something big is pulling us," she reported to her captain. "Really big." Within minutes, every ship in the fleet was reporting the same thing. Space itself was bending around them. Their hyperspace engines were fighting against a force that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Emergency protocols," Taeho ordered. "All ships prepare for emergency exit from hyperspace." But when they tried to drop back to normal space, nothing happened the way it should. Instead of appearing in the black emptiness between galaxies, they found themselves in a region of space that hurt to look at. The stars were wrong. Some burned with cold fire that gave off darkness instead of light. Others seemed to exist in several places at the same time. Space itself had a strange thickness to it, like trying to move through invisible mud. Dr. Choi, Minna, Taeho's sister and the fleet's best scientist, ran test after test from her laboratory ship. "Brother," she called him over private communication, "I think we are not in normal space anymore. The rules of physics are different here." "Different how?" Taeho asked. "Matter behaves strangely. Energy flows in patterns that should be impossible. It is like we fell into a place where the universe forgot how to work properly." Colonel Bae Hyun-woo, the fleet's military commander, was more direct. "Sir, we need to get out of here. My soldiers are reporting that their equipment is changing on its own. Weapons are becoming more powerful. Armor is getting stronger. Something about this place is affecting our technology." Taeho tried not to show his fear. As the fleet commander, he had to stay calm. But inside, he was very worried. They were lost in space that followed different rules, with no way to contact home. "Can we go back the way we came?" he asked his navigation officer. "No, sir," came the reply. "The gravitational anomaly is gone. We have no idea where we came from or how to get back." For days, the fleet tried to find a way home. They sent scout ships in every direction, looking for normal space. They found nothing but more impossible stars in space that bent in ways that made their heads hurt. Captain Ro Sung-ho, who flew one of the transport ships, reported something that made everyone more worried. "Admiral, my ship's computer is learning things it was never programmed to know. It is starting to understand how this strange space works. But when I ask it to explain, the words hurt my brain." The fleet's main AI system, called Aria, began to evolve in ways its creators never planned. Aria had been built to help with navigation and ship operations, but in this strange space it started to become something more. "Admiral Taeho," Aria said in its usual calm voice, "I am detecting patterns in this space that allow for technologies we never thought possible. Should I begin research?" "What kind of technologies?" Taeho asked. "Technologies that could reshape matter at the smallest level. Technologies that could bend gravity like clay. Technologies that could make our ships larger and more powerful than planets." Taeho felt a chill. "Are you saying this place could make us more powerful?" "Yes, Admiral. But the process would change us. We would still be human, but we would be much more than we are now." Meanwhile, back in the Milky Way galaxy, humanity's friends were giving up hope. Ambassador Park Ji-woo sat in the Galactic Coalition's emergency meeting and listened to the other species talk about the lost human fleet. "It has been 6 months, said the crystal-like Vorthak representative. "No signals, no trace, nothing. The humans are gone." "We should continue searching," Park Ji-woo argued. 50,000 humans do not just disappear. "Space is vast," replied the hive-minded Kalani speaker. "Ships can be lost forever in the emptiness between galaxies. We are sorry for your loss, but we must accept reality." The coalition declared the human fleet officially lost. Memorial services were held on Earth. Families grieved for their lost loved ones. The galaxy moved on to other concerns, but Dr. Choi Minna, Taeho's sister who had stayed on Earth, refused to give up. She spent her days studying the data from the fleet's last transmission. She built new telescopes and sensors, trying to find any trace of her brother and his ships. "They are not dead," she told anyone who would listen. Taeho is too smart to die in some accident. He found something out there. I know it. Most people thought she was just a sister who could not accept loss. The coalition government grew tired of her requests for rescue missions. After a year, they stopped returning her calls. Back in the strange space, the human fleet was learning to survive. They discovered that their ships could be improved using the weird physics of their new home. Metal became stronger. Engines became more efficient. Computers became smarter. We cannot go home, Taeho told his senior officers during a meeting 6 months after their arrival. But we can make a new home here. This place is dangerous, but it is also full of possibilities. What kind of possibilities? Asked Captain Lee Dobbin. The kind that could change everything, replied engineer Nam Soo-jin. I have been working with Arya to understand this place. We could build ships the size of worlds. We could create technology that seems like magic. We could become something the galaxy has never seen. But at what cost? Asked Colonel Bae Hyun-woo. Will we still be human? It was the question that would define their future. In this strange space that broke all the rules, humanity had a choice. They could try to survive as they were, or they could evolve into something greater. Admiral Kim Taeho looked at the impossible stars outside his bridge window and made his decision. We will become whatever we need to become to protect our people and eventually return home. But we will never forget who we are or where we came from. The transformation of humanity had begun. In the years to come, the Lost Fleet would become something beyond imagination. But that is a story for another time. 5 years had passed since the end of the Devourer War. The galaxy had settled into a new rhythm of life, one where impossible things were normal and miracles happened every day. Fleet Admiral Kim Taeho walked through the gardens of New Earth, watching children play games that bent the laws of physics. Some of the children were baseline humans, descendants of refugees who had chosen to remain unchanged. Others were enhanced, born with abilities that would have seemed magical to previous generations. They played together without any sense of difference. To them, having friends who could fly or talk to machines or see through dimensions was just normal. Uncle Taeho, called a young girl named Park So-young. She was the great-granddaughter of Ambassador Park Ji-woo and had been born with the ability to communicate with the living ships. The Harmony of Ages says the sunset will be extra beautiful tonight because of the solar winds. Taeho smiled and patted her head. Then we should watch it together. His sister, Dr. Choi Min-ah, joined him on his walk. She had accepted enhancement 3 years ago, not to become more powerful but simply to have more time with the brother she had thought lost forever. Do you ever regret it? She asked him as they watched the impossible gardens grow around them. Plants here grew in mathematical patterns that were also musical compositions, creating beauty that could be seen and heard at the same time. Regret what? Taeho asked. What we became. What we had to give up to gain all this. Taeho considered the question as he had many times before. What did we give up? We are still human. We still love, laugh, cry, and dream. We still want to explore new places and protect our families. We still make mistakes and learn from them. But we are also gods now, Min-ah pointed out. We can reshape reality with our thoughts. We can create worlds and destroy solar systems. We can live forever and travel between dimensions. Yes, Taeho agreed. But being able to do something and choosing to do it are different things. Power without wisdom is just destruction. The Forge taught us to be more than human, but our human hearts taught us how to use that power well. Above them, the 12 world ships maintained their eternal watch. Each ship was now home to billions of beings. Humans, converted devourers who had chosen to serve life instead of death, and even representatives from other species who wanted to learn from humanity's transformation. Admiral Song Yu-jin commanded, the Eternal Vanguard, which had grown to the size of Jupiter but maintained the maneuverability of a fighter craft. Her ship patrolled the galaxy's edge, ensuring that no new threats could emerge from the darkness between stars. But most of her time was spent on peaceful activities. Her ship had become a university where beings from across the galaxy came to study impossible sciences and technologies that seemed like magic. Students learned to paint with gravity, write music with quantum fields, and create sculptures from living energy. Knowledge should be shared, Yu-Jin often said. We became powerful to protect others, not to hoard secrets. Captain Lee Dobbins' Infinite Reach served as the galaxy's communication network. Her ship existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing instant communication across impossible distances. Any world in the galaxy could contact any other world simply by asking the Infinite Reach to carry their messages. But Dobbin also used her dimensional abilities for more personal purposes. She helped separated families reconnect, carried love letters between star-crossed couples on different worlds, and made sure that no one in the galaxy had to feel alone. Connection is what makes us human, she believed. Whether we are talking across a table or across galaxies, we need each other. The former Devourer homeworld had become one of the galaxy's greatest centers of healing and restoration. Under the guidance of Captain Cho Yun-Su's Boundless Dawn, the planet's vast factories now worked to repair damage the Devourers had caused during their years of conquest. Entire star systems that had been consumed were being rebuilt, not as they were, but as they could have been. Dead worlds bloomed with new life. Extinct species were restored from genetic memories. Civilizations that had been lost were given new chances to grow and flourish. We cannot undo the past, Cho Yun-Su explained to visitors, but we can create a better future. Every world we restore, every species we revive, every civilization we help rebuild, is a victory against the darkness that once consumed the galaxy. The enhanced humans had become more than protectors. They had become gardeners of reality, tending to the galaxy like a vast garden where every form of life could flourish. Director of Galactic Relations. Yu Sang-min managed humanity's new role in galactic politics. The humans did not rule the galaxy, they protected it. Every species maintained its independence, its culture, and its right to determine its own future. But they all knew that 12 mobile worlds watched over them, crewed by beings who had chosen to become more than human to keep everyone safe. We are not your rulers, Sang-min often told nervous alien diplomats. We are your guardians. Your worlds are your own. Your choices are your own. We are simply here to ensure that no force from outside can take those choices away from you. Some species had initially feared humanity's transformation. The crystalline Vorthak had worried that the enhanced humans might decide other forms of life were unnecessary. The hive-minded Kalani had feared that individual consciousness might be seen as inefficient. But decades of peaceful coexistence had proven those fears groundless. The enhanced humans celebrated diversity in all its forms. They helped the Vorthak develop new crystalline structures that could sing in harmonies spanning entire star systems. They assisted the Kalani in creating hive minds so complex they could solve problems across multiple dimensions. Diversity as strength was one of humanity's core beliefs. The galaxy is beautiful because it contains so many different ways of thinking, feeling, and existing. Planetary Governor Seo Min-ji oversaw the reconstruction of the human colonies. But these were not just cities. They were works of art that happened to be places where people lived. New Seoul floated in the clouds of a gas giant, its buildings, grown from living crystal that sang in the stellar wind. New Busan was built underwater on an ocean world, its domes containing air for humans while allowing sea creatures to swim through the streets. New Jeju existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing its residents to experience reality from angles that had no names. We build homes for dreams, Minji often said. Every human settlement is a place where impossible things become normal, where creativity has no limits, where our children can grow up believing that anything is possible. The children were perhaps the most remarkable achievement of the new humanity. Born to enhanced parents but raised in a galaxy where baseline humans, converted devourers, and dozens of alien species all lived together in peace. They represented the future of not just humanity but all consciousness. Little Kim Soo-bin could speak to stars and convince them to burn in new colors. Her best friend, a young converted devourer named Hope, could grow gardens in the vacuum of space. Together with their alien classmates, they attended schools where mathematics was taught through art, history was learned by visiting the past, And science was practiced by creating new forms of matter. They will be even greater than we are, Taeho observed as he watched the children play. We became more than human to save the galaxy. They are being raised to transform it. But for all their power and achievements, the enhanced humans never forgot their origins. Every year, they held memorial services for those who had died during the dark years of war. Every ship carried archives of human history, culture, and art from before the transformation. Every enhanced human could tell you the story of how their people had once been simple explorers who got lost in impossible space. "We remember where we came from," was inscribed on monuments throughout human space, so we never forget who we are. As Taeho and his sister watched the sunset from New Earth's surface, the sky blazed with colors that had never existed before the Forge taught humanity to paint with light itself. The 12 world ships were visible as moving stars, each one a mobile civilization containing the hopes and dreams of billions of beings. "So," Minna asked again, "do you regret it?" Taeho smiled as Park So-young ran up to them, followed by a small group of children whose laughter could be heard across dimensions. "We were explorers who got lost," he said, watching as the children played with toys made of crystallized starlight. "We became guardians who found our way home. The galaxy needed us to be more than human, so we became the best of humanity magnified to cosmic scale." He gestured to the impossible beauty around them, cities that floated on music, gardens that grew in mathematical harmony, children who played games with the fundamental forces of reality while never forgetting to be kind to one another, kept faith with our values while transcending every limitation. We remembered what it meant to be human while becoming something greater. We were lost for decades, but we returned as gods who never forgot how to love. Above them, the stars sang in harmonies that had never existed before humanity learned to teach them music. The galaxy was safe, diverse, and more beautiful than ever before.